Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for Murder at the End of the World, Episode 3. What a chaotic, interesting episode this was. This is really shaping up to be one of the best shows that's on TV right now.
Oh, it absolutely is. Not only do we have one murder, but now we have two. And they're
Ooh.
connected by some sort of secret that Bill had uncovered. And he was going to tell Rohan about it. And now Rohan thinks he had figured it out, but it's too late. He has died of a heart attack, sure.
Yeah, this show, through just the first few episodes here, it's tackling a lot of big things. We've got two separate murders at this point.
Yep.
We have the advent of new groundbreaking technology, and you've
Mhm.
got kind of like that sci-fi-ish sort of storyline going on. Then you've got everything with Darby and Bill in the past with the Silver
Mhm.
Doe mystery, and then the
Mhm.
question that, of course, inevitably comes up is how much is all of that connected to the present? I would believe very connected, probably more connected than any of us even know right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's little connections still happening right now where, we saw in the past two episodes, there was some Morse code that was going on with Bill, that's how he was communicating with Darby a little bit to be like, happy birthday, Morse code. And then we saw Morse code here again. So here begs the question,
Yeah.
is Bill alive? Is that who Rohan was talking to when he went up onto, the cliff face and was doing Morse code? The person blinking back? Bill, let's talk about it. Let me know in the comments.
It's a crazy theory. It's an interesting theory, though. It's one that would absolutely justify Britt Marling's involvement in this show, because it's like we know that something crazy is going to happen here at some point. It's just all a matter of when. Everything is
Mhm.
going to come together, and honestly, I don't mind if I'm wrong 10 ways to Sunday. It's just as long as you can stick the landing and, show your work, to use an old high school math analogy. I will be very, very thrilled with what this show is bringing us.
Absolutely.
All right, now as we dive more and more into this and uncover all the layers, be sure to join our Patreon for weekly live streams all about a murder at the end of the world. If you
Yep.
guys think we're throwing out theories and having big discussions here, wait until you see our Patreon.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. We dive even deeper. They're nice and long and fun. There's
Yeah.
lots of people jumping in the conversation. It's a great way to help support the channel. So we'll leave a link for you below.
All right, thank you guys so much for checking that out. And okay, let's get into your theory here about, is Bill alive?
Yeah, I mean, Bill and Rohan's relationship is a pretty important one. I mean, Rohan was someone who was environmentalist. He went off the grid after he was arrested for doing a bunch of protests. And, Bill ended up coming into Rohan's life and helped get him sober. And he was sober for 5 years until Bill's death.
It's clear that there was a
Death.
deep, profound relationship that was there. I think one of
Mm.
the best moments of this entire episode is hearing both Darby and Rohan discuss how much they each loved Bill and what Bill meant to the two of them. I think the writing in this episode is really good when it comes to making us care for a character in Bill who really we haven't known that long and we
Mhm.
don't even know in the present anymore. I am in the camp right now that Bill is dead, just because this would be a very hard thing for Bill to fake at this point. He would have needed to stage his own dead body. He would need to go somewhere else so that people couldn't find him. And sure, there might be a cave or something outside this retreat. It seems cold out there.
Listen, if somebody is the murderer and it's not Bill just staging his own death, who do you guys think it is? Early predictions, because I'm actually kind of leaning toward Sean. She's the
Okay.
person who, is the doctor that's there. She's the one who pronounced him dead as an OD and then kind of had this weird look with Andy. And then there was this weird conversation she had with Darby as well, where she was
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, how many books did you buy to sell? 5,000? How many did you sell? 2,000? Oh, well, guess what? Now you're here with Andy, and Andy changes lives. And so maybe stop interrogating everybody and trying to, bite the hand that could potentially feed you. Like, what are you doing? To me, that tells me that Sean is willing to do just about anything for him.
Yeah.
That, Andy has really set her career apart from so many other people of things that she would never get to do if it wasn't for Andy. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that she's the only doctor here and somebody died.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing this a lot, guys.
Well,
Sorry.
that's the sort of show we got here. It's the show full of quotations. Okay, I agree with you through the aspect of this that everything is manipulated at this retreat. Like that part of this feels very, very clear. I don't think it's a coincidence either that Sean, is the only doctor. I think this is all about Andy staging things and Andy concocting a world that best behooves him. I think that there's a lot of connections between Andy and even some more of these other people than what we even know at this point, because yes, he wants to bring all these sort of experts together, but he also just wants all of them working for him. Sure, it's for the good of humanity, but humanity to Andy also equals Andy becomes a bigger deal to society. So this is a very self-serving meeting of the best and brightest of the entire universe here.
Okay. Bear with me, guys. I have a theory. Everybody put in your
Okay, all
tinfoil
right,
hats.
all right.
I'm going to be taking you guys on a ride.
All
Okay, so Bill was invited by Andy, as I suspected. I said that in the first video we did. I thought he invited him. Okay, so here's where some of this is all going to start connecting. So
Okay.
Lee says that she wasn't having an affair with Bill. As it turned out, it was sort of like around the time 5 years, 6 years ago, where she was like on and off with Andy. She had met up with Bill. Bill had read her manifesto, went to see her, and then she went to, his art and exhibits, and they became really close. They weren't having an affair, but she claims that they hooked up one time, not to completion. I don't believe you. And then timing wise, now she has Zoomer. So if they had met like 6 years in the past, hooked up, Zoomer's now 5, the math kind of works out that, this kid is probably Bill's. But here's where it gets a little more theory and interesting and off the rails. Listen, it's Britt Marling, so we can go into these wonderful directions.
Yeah.
So we know that Bill is sort of like very critical of tech. That was something that was brought up a couple times in this episode. We know that Andy is very much pro tech. We saw all the robotics, everything that's going on with Oliver. So is it possible that Zoomer, who I think is Bill and Lee's child, that she ends up having this child with Andy, where she's with, I got pregnant. She didn't really say by who. I got pregnant, and then I married Andy. It's like, okay. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that Zoomer is sort of a half human, half sort of AI tech sort of thing, android, that some of Andy's tech has been put into their child? So now Zoomer, like, sort of belongs to him in a different way, because if there is some sort of technology that's inside Zoomer, now he's not just their child, he's also property, right? Because there would be tech in him. So that would explain why Lee can't leave, because this would be her child. This child has some sort of tech in it that belongs to Andy, so she's not able to ever leave Zoomer because she can't take Zoomer with her, because technically he's partially property, like he's not all human. So that would kind of explain what's going on, where it was like, they told them not to feed Zoomer at this dinner. There was a moment where Zoomer went up to Bill and was like trying to play doctor and listen to his heart and stuff like that. And Andy was like, no, come here, sort of thing. He's very protected in a way that makes me feel like he's more than just his kid.
The case of Zoomer is a very interesting case. I think it's clear to me that Zoomer is involved somehow in everything that is going on. And your theory about, him being Bill and Lee's kid, like, that makes timeline-wise a heck of a lot of sense. And it does explain a lot of the awkwardness that kind of exists between all of these different characters.
Yeah, because then this would also make sense why Andy would invite Bill there. Because let's say that Bill, who
Yeah.
is like very critical of technology, has started to, this is the secret that he has started to figure out that Zoomer is maybe his, is maybe part tech, is about to blow the lid off of all of this. And Andy's like, do you want to come to dinner? Right? And then he's got Sean, who's the doctor, who's, all of a sudden to be like, oh, Bill is dead kind of thing, and would do anything for Andy. That's not technically Andy that's doing anything technically, but it could be Sean.
I think where I get very, very stuck with this show is that I know that technology is involved here. I'm not saying in like broad abstract terms like technology is the killer because there's somebody responsible for creating the technology who at the end of the day that's responsible for who committed the crimes.
Mhm.
But okay, let's stay really out on left field here because my current
More
theory,
than a half
okay,
human, half android AI baby.
apples and oranges, like they're both very far out. We are going so far out of the retreat. We're barely in Iceland right now with some of what we're throwing out there. But okay, here's where I sort of agree with you is that tech is very involved in what's going on here. I think a lot of us who are watching this show, we believe that. Now, where my attention is that visually, the biggest moment of this entire episode is that we have Darby and Rohan and a lot of these other people are
Mhm.
off on one of, it seems to be at first, one of just like Andy's ridiculous, come and look at the sky and I will tell you how I am God of the universe. But really, it's so he can show off his, army of metallic robots who are ultimately going to change the world
Mhm.
by making it much more self-sufficient so that humans don't have to waste their time doing any of these tasks anymore. And so
Mhm.
clearly, Andy's got this sort of construct where humans don't have to work as much anymore. And it's big and ambitious and it's exciting. And he's got Oliver seemingly very, very involved in all of this. Now, if you guys watched the video last week, I threw this idea out there that Oliver may be indirectly the killer and that there is some sort of robotics project that ended up killing Bill. Now, I'm kind of sort of still on this, but in a slightly different way now
Mhm.
because I don't think they're going to go in the direction that all robots are evil because we've seen that 2 million times. I think that the robots we saw in this episode were probably helpful. I don't think Andy would show off these robots unless he knew for sure that they were actually going to achieve what he was claiming they were going to.
Mhm.
However, I think it's very, very likely that there are some duds out there or some things that are created intentionally to be evil. And it is possible that at some point along the way over the past several years, Bill either learned it from one of the other connections that he has, because it does seem like Bill in some way either knew or had heard of or had some communication with a lot of the people at the resort. Bill is very well connected. He may have heard of some sort of robotics project gone awry that Oliver and Andy were working on that was not the wonderful display that we saw in the episode. And he, whether it be through his art, because we know how his art is very message centric,
Mhm.
or his words, was going to tell some of that story. And their idea then was that, okay, we're going to get him up here to this resort. We're going to design some sort of robotic object within this high-tech room that nobody seems to really understand all of it, that is going to kill him, stage the perfect crime, and then have it work out in a way where it just looks like there's no other way he could have died other than just by he took something, he did this to himself. Like if this murder was planned or premeditated, it has to be something like this. And I know I've talked for like a billion minutes here. It's just like I don't see how else Andy would do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oliver's a pretty good suspect in general. I mean, they did have this whole thing where Darby was like, Ray, tell me how Bill's connected to any of these guests through the internet, which is something she could have just done in a Google search herself, but
Yeah.
that's fine. But one of the things that came up was that Oliver basically called Bill a hack and was like, whatever, because he was being really critical of tech. So, I mean, Oliver and Bill had a little bit of beef going on.
They clearly did, and I think there's clearly something that whether it's Andy or whoever the murderer is, they just don't want that information to get out, and so they're willing to do whatever they can to make it happen. Okay, you think that theory is crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the craziest
Oh
one.
boy.
That helmet that Darby wore in this episode. It's this, Zoomer clearly has a good time with this helmet, and it did look pretty fun. What if the killer was wearing this helmet and this killer thought they were doing something that they really weren't, and they were intentionally doing this, and that Andy has programmed this helmet for Zoomer to be a force of just happiness and education and learning, but he's found a way to sort of manipulate it for other people, that he got someone else to do this murder without them even knowing what they were doing.
Zoomer is the key to so much of this. I'm dying on this hill. Like, why is this kid in every single episode interacting with everybody?
Yeah.
He is the key to whatever is going on and why people are dying. There is a secret, like I said, that Bill has figured out and then was going to tell Rohan, didn't tell Rohan in time, and now Rohan is also dead. So I just feel like it has to do with, why are we seeing this kid this much?
Okay, next question for the commenters. Is Zoomer involved because he's half human, half android, or is his magic helmet killing people?
Oh, what is magic helmet?
The helmet was cool. I want one of those helmets as long as it's not doing what I'm theorizing it's doing.
Okay, let's talk about the server for a second, Tomas, because he ended up telling Darby that there were 3 teacups going to Bill's room the night he died. Now, Rohan, we saw he's the man that was in the mask, and this mask was used in protest to be able to sort of mask who you are. They can't do Face ID on you, so he had that with him when he went to Bill's room, and he says that he did that because he didn't want anyone to know that he was going to Bill's room, because Bill had this secret that he was going to tell him. But when he got there, he saw that Bill had possibly been using, he was really mad at him for it, didn't understand it, and they didn't end up actually getting to this conversation because Rohan was so mad. And then of course he was like, oh, I realized later it wasn't what it looked like, but I had already come and gone. Debbie was like, yeah, well, he had already been poisoned or drugged or whatever before you even got there, so it's not you.
Okay.
So who are these 3 teacups then? Was Rohan one of them? Bill was one of them? Somebody else? Like, what is it? What do you guys think?
Okay, here's what I think. I think one of them was meant for Rohan. One of them was meant, clearly for Bill. The third person, this is going back to the crazy helmet theory here, but
Zoomer?
No, it's not Zoomer. I'm not saying it's Zoomer, but
Ray.
I'm kidding. It might as well be Ray at this point, really. No, I think it's whoever was wearing the helmet. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I kind of feel like as well, if this is all Andy's doing, and whether it is, my theory that this is some sort of robot object that was planned far in advance, and this is like Oliver and Andy in tandem, or that Andy has like programmed this helmet to do something to somebody. I think either way, it's the idea of using technology to stage the perfect crime. Is there a way when you're using this helmet that when you're done using the helmet, does it also sort of wipe your mental hard drive? Because here's the thing, if you're going to have somebody be a killer, or even if you're going to have a robot be a killer, you're going to want to make it so that it's completely untraceable. And I think that there is an interesting chance on this show that somebody is committing these murders, but then not knowing after the fact that they committed them. And therefore, it makes Andy's cover-up story that much easier, where he can just be like, okay, this is how it happened. There's no other evidence contrary because I've made sure of it.
Yeah, because it's Sean. because she's a doctor, and the first person
Yeah.
who ended up dying is Bill with what looked like an EpiPen, which was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
When they picked it up, I was like, "Would he stick himself with an EpiPen? I
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on here." Now, the second person is Rohan, who had said that he had heart issues, and then all of a sudden he's having a heart attack. Like, it feels like this is something that a doctor could be manipulating. So she's still at the top of my list. But we had Andy near the end of this episode tell Darby that she's gone. That he's
Yeah.
just like, listen, you are interrogating all my guests. This is still like, yes, it's sad what's happened, but my guests have all said that they want to stay
Yeah.
and they want to continue on with this. But you're just harassing everybody now. So give me your ring. You got to go. But now that this second death has happened, I don't know how he gets her out of there.
Does he want her to really leave? This is where
Oh,
Okay, here's the other. This is something. It's another crazy thing I said last week. Where is this all a test? Is this all a big elaborate test for Darby?
an interview.
Yeah, so she can show that she is the perfect crime solver, and then this is all really setting up for something that he wants to use Darby for down the road. Because he might be telling her, "Okay, I need you to leave," knowing that in order to pass the test, she can't leave, and ultimately the stakes are going to keep getting higher, and he's just going to continue to see, okay, can she find a way to solve this before it ends up undoing her? Because it strikes me at the very least, Andy is a crazy enough human being where if Darby isn't good enough to succeed in what he's tasked her to do, he'll just kill Darby, and she'll just be yet another murder, because then nobody could ever figure it out if she's of no use to him at the end.
Or he's testing out a murder device and he's got a sleuth there in order to help figure it out. However, I actually think that Lee's the person that invited Darby, because now we know that Andy's the person that invited Bill. So
Yeah.
I think Lee was like, okay, if Bill's going to be here, I better make sure that Darby is here
Yeah.
so that there's more friends with Bill. So if things do go sideways and my Zoomer secrets all come out or whatever, that there's somebody else here that really cares about Bill. And I would think that Lee would probably know about Rohan as well. So I think she's probably invited him as well.
I think so. This is the part of the show I just don't fully understand, where it's that you guys know who Darby is. Like, she's a crime solver. This is kind of her bag. Like, if you are Andy, how can you not think that she's going to do this? Like, of course this is what she's going to do. If you didn't invite her, I can at least understand it like a tiny bit more.
It's ego. If he's like brought Bill here to kill him, then, for him, he's probably like, oh, whatever. She's an amateur sleuth who wrote a book that didn't sell. Ooh, I'm so scared. Like, that's what I feel like it probably was with him, that he was just like, whatever.
Yeah, he clearly underestimated her on some level, unless this is some sort of test, and he still feels like he can just throw her out on a whim. Clearly, yeah, that's not happening now. Another person is dead. It seems like there's a big storm a-brewing, so it's like, is she even going to be able to leave anyway?
I don't know. Bill might be alive. Listen, is there anybody else out there that thinks that he might be alive? Like, honestly, like when I saw that Morse code going where Rohan was up there doing Morse code, like, they didn't show us that for no reason with that birthday thing with Darby. Like, it was there for a reason. And then we saw the light flashing back. I'm just like, okay, come on. And they were saying, one down, still a go. It's like, what does that mean? Like, it feels like I feel like maybe he's still alive.
Okay, I have another couple just random thoughts coming out of this.
Okay.
For one, David, you're just a jerk. Like, this is the only reason to suspect that David is the killer. David's just a jerk, which also, this is very weird because, Raul Esparza is best known for playing Barba on SVU. Based on that interaction that we saw between David and Darby, Olivia Benson may need to come for David. David's a real creep show, this guy, with how he's talking to her. I'm just like, bye. Can David be the next victim? But then I don't want to lose Raul, though.
No.
Okay, that's one thing. Another thing, what do these people really do at this hotel? Like, we watched like a performance at one point. We've seen like a slide presentation. I'm still not actually sure what Andy is doing with these people. Are they going to do trust falls and team building exercises
I
next?
don't know. Listen, we're also covering the curse. In the last episode, someone was like handing someone sliced meat and screaming in their face. So, that was an art exhibit.
I feel like the show is handing me sliced meat and screaming in my face, where it's just like, I'm watching these people just like wander around, do things that don't seemingly make any sense. People are dying. We've got these big flashbacks. I'm really compelled. I'm really enjoying a lot of this show, but
Yep.
it's just making me crazy.
It's wonderful. I'm so excited about this show. Like there's a lot of good stuff that's airing right now, but this is the show that I am the most into.
Okay, well, we will be back, of course, to discuss more of A Murder at the End of the World,
Mhm.
but be sure to join our Patreon. We've got that link in the description for more theories, more discussion.
Yep.
It's going to be so much fun through the rest of this season. And thank you to our patrons for your support.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate that. We'll see you guys here next time.